We'll start with head coach Dustin Kerns. Coach, we'll ask you to make an opening statement, then we'll open the floor for questions. Chase has a microphone, so if you have questions, just question and he'll hand it off to you. Coach, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, it's good to be back. It's good to see some familiar faces. Good to get closer and closer to tip off. It's been exciting with this team, having a lot of returners, which is always good. But we're excited to see where the season takes us.
Dustin, a lot of pieces back from last year, but every new year basically means kind of a new team almost in some ways. The biggest thing you guys are going to deal with is probably weight of expectations because you're the reigning Sun Belt champions. So, as it's come to accepting that and striving for it again, has anything changed with the way you're messaging to the team or the way you guys are talking about things in terms of being, literally the hunted?
Sure. I mean, and obviously expectations are good. All right, you never want expectations to be low, but it can't be our focus. In life, I've told our guys you can't repeat anything. You can try to recreate stuff, and we can recreate the harmony and the chemistry really through committing ourselves back to the values and standards of our program. But good teams have a hungry, humble approach, and good teams come to the gym every day. We got to get better today, and I think that's been our focus with this team because there are some expectations now, and I got some guys in the locker room that this is new for them. And credit to those guys, they're part of changing the direction of the program. But this is a new approach, some new buzzwords, some new things with our program. So to answer your question, yes.
You've got some familiar pieces back, always opportunities to grow in the off season. What are some of the things that you guys have tried to emphasize, maybe not specific to any given player, but just generally across the group, hey, here are some things we want to work on. Here are some things we want to improve on that are opportunities for us to maybe differentiate the way we play.
Yeah, I think that's all off season we evaluated ourselves, and we're in the last two seasons, we're 18-3 when we score over 75 points a game. We average 70 points a game, so we really tried to, really figure out how can we get those quote 6 more points. Doesn't guarantee success, but the numbers are 18-3. That's a pretty good. And then the flip side, the last 2 years we're 26-5, and we hold opponents under 65. So how do we get better defensively? We've been the quote number 2 team in the Sun Belt in defense. How do we get to number 1? And so there's room for growth. There's including me and the staff, and that's why we spent our off season how to get to the quote 75 where the numbers are pretty good, and how do we get better on the other side of the ball too. And we've made just some minor little tweaks, and I feel like it'll help our team on both sides of the ball. Certainly I think part of our growth too is depth. We've got to be a deeper team. I don't know if it's, quote, a great stat, but we're second in the country the last 2 years in halftime deficit wins with 15. And so I think that's contribute to our depth. I think we trailing at the half, yeah, we've came back 15 times and won, which is a lot, second in the country. However, how do we avoid that? And I think that we've got to get a deeper team, and I feel like the improvement through our bench has been good, and I feel like we are deeper. I feel like that in the offseason, the guys that need to get better have gotten better, but also the guys that were, quote, key players, they have gotten better as well. But that's a big part of our depth that's a big part of our improvement is being a deeper team.
Last year's team was so much about, the same guys on the floor working very effectively together. You could tell there was a lot of cohesion between them. Have you put the mantle of maybe additional leadership on anybody in particular coming into this season? You got some really experienced guys, obviously Justin and Michael Almonacy are here for an extra season and that type of thing. But have you tried to maybe differentiate a little bit? Hey, I need some voices that are going to definitely stand out, just besides the coaching staff?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, we'd have never had captains. We've never done that. I really feel like I want everybody to feel a huge part of it, and huge ownership. But, a Donovan Gregory, a guy that's played a lot of basketball for us, a James Lewis, Adrian Delph's been around here a long time and had a lot of success. Those guys have got to, emerge in more of a leadership by example role. And through 13 practices, it's been that. Last year was really difficult to learn your team. I mean, shortened season, pauses, and you're still trying to figure out your team in January, February. I've got a better feel for our team right now with so many returners and only just 2 new guys. And so I think that's a big help too, but also the Donovans, the R.J. Duaharts, the James Lewises, the Delphs, they can lead by example more, and certainly we need that.
Justin, now that you're a little ways away from the NCAA tournament berth, I wonder if your appreciation or the way you think about that has changed or, maybe deepened now that you've gotten further away from it and are embarking on a new season.
Yeah, I think that, history can be hard, and in both ways. And I think that for our program to be a part of March Madness for the 3rd time in 100 years as a program and the 3rd time in school history gives you a lot of perspective. I also think that everyone wants to be a part of March Madness until you're on the other end of it, until you're on the other end of a 1-point loss. But you see all the buzzer beaters, and you see all the magic, and you see all the history, which is what makes it so special. But when you're on the other end of it, a heartbreaking loss, it can definitely give you perspective. But you've got to go back and appreciate the journey. But it's also, and I think our guys understand this. I've always talked to them about, like, the moment in Pensacola, the confetti going down, the trophy. That's addictive. It's addictive. That feeling has got to be like a drug, and you got to be addicted to that. And so everybody loves winning, but you've got to fall in love with what goes into winning, and the daily approach, the daily habits, the daily preparation, that killer instinct. And so having our guys get a taste of it, I think it's just made everyone hungry for more.
You talked about the expectation component of that, but just in general, the after effects of a program making a tournament that hasn't in a while, where do you see those most, you think?
Well, I think it's certainly helped in recruiting. We're still going to identify and recruit the right type of kids, but it's maybe opened up a little bit more doors for us, a little bit more nationally. I mean, the visibility and the exposure you get from being a part of those 68 teams playing for a national championship is priceless. And so we've seen the benefit in recruiting with just, hey, listen, now this is not something we're trying to sell. Like, it can be done here, and you can reach those dreams and do that here. I also think that we've seen it internally. Doug Gillen and the administration have been very good about trying to elevate the program in the infrastructure and some facilities and things like that. And so, I think we've seen the benefit in all those regards. And I think we've seen that in what I hope is a little bit more of just a confidence. 2 years ago we sat here and I talked about showing our team rats fighting cats, right? And that was to embrace and establish a fighting culture, a program that's here to hey, we're here to compete. And now it's a little bit of a different approach of, hey, listen, now we sustaining it, which is sometimes harder.
You mentioned Donovan taking on some of that leadership, and I wonder, is that something that you've always thought his personality was capable of? Like, did you see that early on? Has he grown into that a little bit more just with playing time and being around a program? How did that come to be?
Yeah, I think it's been part of his growth. I think that he's always had a very, moxie to him, a swagger. But last year, when we changed the role for him, and he embraced it, and I credit to him. He really bought into being a quote undersized post player. But we identified, hey, this is what we see you as, and bringing incredible value, and he flourished in it. I mean, he had a really, really good season, and so I think that gave him a lot of confidence. I think that is a guy that is confident, but I think that really built even more confidence in him, and certainly that hopefully continues to grow.
Coach, last year there were a lot of games that were very quiet for you guys when you guys played at home. All off season, up even at the beginning or towards the end of the season, you were talking about how this year you really wanted people to come out. You really wanted to be a much louder stadium, especially when you were having to go on the road to teams that were having full stadiums. Having a much more level playing field in that aspect, how do you think that's going to affect the season and your guys?
I think it's a big part of our growth. I mean, look, our football team is an elite power because we have an elite atmosphere. We've got an elite tradition that has created an elite atmosphere. It's no different than us. Every mid-major program in the country has an elite home court advantage. They have an elite atmosphere. That's part of our growth is for 15 times a year, which is this year right now, 15 home games, that we have an elite atmosphere. And so I'm hopeful. I think our players and program, with as passionate and great as our fan base is and alumni, that we can have an elite atmosphere for 15 times a year. I think that's part of our growth. You don't look across college basketball and see another mid-major program without an elite home court atmosphere. And so I'll be disappointing if we had a 70% increase in year one in attendance, which really helped us get some momentum and get going. I mean, our crowds in year one were really going in a great positive direction. Last year, obviously different variables, but now with capacity back, a lot of excitement. My expectations on that end are pretty high.
And speaking of elite home court advantage, second half of December you're going to be on the road at Duke, at UNC, and then immediately flip from that into Sun Belt play. How important is that stretch of the season going to be just in terms of the mindset of this team? And because last year especially there were a lot of games that you guys won purely off toughness as well.
Yeah, go big or go home, right? But I really haven't thought about that aspect to it. I didn't know that we entered Sun Belt play after that until you just said that. I know that sounds cliche-ish, but that's true. If I'm asking my players to stay disciplined and focused, then I got to do the same. And I really haven't thought about going from those two games until into Sun Belt play. And so I really don't know if I have an answer for you on that, other than we got a scrimmage this weekend that we're starting to focus in on, and our focus right now is us, obviously. We open up at Iona, which is CBS had the #1 mid-major in the country. And so those are games, and those are ways for us to continue to elevate the program too, is to play games. Iona will come back to Boone. And so, but that's, I don't know if I have quite an answer for you on that yet.
One last thing, obviously you're bringing back a lot of minutes from last year, a lot of experience and stuff. But are there any guys, maybe a bit lower on the depth chart from last year who are coming back who you might be expecting to take that next step? Someone like, Sasha or Xavion?
Yeah, you know what? That's part of our growth is more depth. And we can't be playing Almonacy and Forrest and Delph and those guys, Donovan, 37, 38 minutes. We need to have a deeper team. I think that is part of our deeper team. But Xavion Brown has had a very good offseason. He kind of has taken off to where he finished last season. Michael Leeds has had a very good offseason. His body and himself look as good as he ever has. C.J. Huntley has had a very good offseason. Sasha has gained 30 pounds. And then we've got two good freshmen. All right, and so we held the scholarship this year. We didn't use one. Felt like that with so many returners and a couple of new guys, we would push that to next year's class. And so But yeah, there's been growth from all those guys. That's exciting, and I felt like that after our scrimmage on Saturday against each other, it validated my thoughts. We've got a lot more depth just from the improvement of all those guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Hello, I'm Natalie Lonaba with App TV, and I just have two questions
Hey,
for
Natalie.
you. The first one is, earlier you were talking about showing your athletes videos of rats fighting cats to give them that fighting mentality, and I was just wondering, what strategies are you using now to get them in that mindset of maintaining excellence?
Well, I referenced that because Ethan did an article about it, and I remember that, and showed the video and all that. So, and it's just a different message, right? Obviously, going back to that, we had the last 2 years we've had 15 halftime deficit wins, the second most in the country, and so that message got across to them. It's a different message. It's a different team. You know, the message now is past performances doesn't guarantee future success. Either way. You know, when I got here 8 straight losing seasons, I told them the same thing. Past performance doesn't guarantee future success. Well, now it's the same thing as sustaining it. And so, you know, I think that we've tried to identify programs that have been very consistent, that have sustained success, and try to identify why, and really give our guys those examples. So I haven't really found animals fighting each other maybe. But we've tried to give our guys examples of why programs have been able to sustain it.
And my last question for you is, although it seems like your team is still some of the same people from last year, you know, the teaching never really ends. So what lessons outside of basketball are you deliberately imparting on your team?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Really center yourself daily. Center yourself daily with the standards and values of our program. Competition's a gift. And, you know, we talked to them about, I've only been in the league 2 years, but from what I know about the league right now, it could be, if there's ever going to be a 2-bid league this year could be the year. It's going to be very, very good. And so, like, competition's a gift. Certainly embrace it. But just have perspective. At the end of the day, we're playing basketball. This is bigger than basketball. And so, yeah, you make some jump shots on national TV, yeah, but what are we about? Well, what is our program about? Who are we? What do we stand for? And those are the daily messages.
Thank you.
Hey, Coach, obviously you bring back a lot of returners and guys that played heavy minutes last year, but what do you expect from some of the newcomers and some guys that didn't play as much last year to contribute to this team?
Yeah, like I said, I think that's a big part of our growth is our depth. We pride ourselves on player development. We've got numerous examples of guys really taking big steps, and so we expect the Xavions, the Sashas, the CJs, the Eads, and even though the Duahart, those guys that continue to take big steps. I think we've also spent a lot of time with Justin Forrest and Almonacy and Delph and Donovan to try to get those guys better because they've all got room for growth. We all do. But Terrence Harcum and Chris Mantis, it's a gift and a curse a little bit. They're 2 new guys, and so they're not getting a lot of. We're moving quick, which is good. We've never moved this quote quick with install and refreshing, but they got to play catch up quick, and an ankle or this or that can really set them back way more than others because we look out there sometimes and we literally have 10 guys that know exactly what we're talking about, and so that's a positive. But Terrence and Chris Mantis are going to be good players. but it's part of the process right now for them. It's a lot of new to them. And as much as we can kind of catch them up to speed, our team is doing a good job helping them catch up to speed. But certainly those guys are good players that, you know, they could find themselves in the rotation as well.
And my other question here is, what do you expect from this year's team out on the court this year?
I think my expectations for that will always stay the same. I expect us to have great character, represent App State in first class on and off the court. I think that I expect us to be tough. I expect us to defend. I expect us to play together and have great chemistry. Guys that really realize they're bigger than part of something bigger than themselves. And so those quote expectations and roles really haven't changed. Like I said, I know we've got some expectations. That's a good thing. No one wants low expectations, but that can't be our focus. And that's been the message of our team is, you know, all that stuff is really irrelevant. At the end of the day, it's our biggest opponent sometimes might be App State, and so that's got to be, you know, where we focus.
Thank you, Coach.
See y'all. Thank y'all for being here.
off. For the staff.
So we left the boss in the back so we could get some straight talk with you guys here. You know, last year was such a strange, hopefully never to be experienced again, off-season and season itself. As the three of you have kind of gone into this off-season and being able to actually be around the guys in a normal setting, doing what you do with them day in and day out, so it maybe made you kind of reappreciate the grind a little bit, because I realize this is not always the fun time of year, because you guys are splitting between, you know, drills with your existing team, hitting the road to go recruiting. You know, did maybe it feel a little more, reasonable for you this off season?
A little more reasonable, and it's good to get back to some normalcy. It's good to get back to actually being on the court with our guys, being on the court with the entire team, not having to, wear masks on the court and things like that. And we've just enjoyed spending that extra quality time with the players off the court. A lot more team meals, team functions that maybe we weren't able to do last year because of having to cater different meals, different type of ways. So it's been good to just being able to spend time with those guys in that setting. And then, like you mentioned, getting back on the road and recruiting and watching prospects in person versus just watching film. A big part of recruiting and evaluating is seeing them in person and being able to evaluate in that setting also versus just film. So it was good to get back to that part of the grind also.
I'll also add, I really appreciate that we're not having to wash basketballs between every single workout.
I hadn't thought about that. That's quite a mental image. Let's just leave that one to the side for the time being. Same question to all three of you that we asked Dustin. It's a lot of the same players. Every team's a little bit different, but you guys come back with the weight of expectations, and not just the expectations you put on yourself. Now you've got them coming from the outside in. I mean, every time you guys go on the road in the Sun Belt, which is going to be, again, normal this year, you're going to come in with target on you. And, that's a different mentality that everybody has to embrace. And you guys are, the way I've always envisioned assistant coaches is you guys are the ones closest to the players' level. If anyone's got their finger on the pulse of those guys, it's you. So, as you've been kind of helping to subtly provide the message of here's what we've got to be doing now, so that we're in the right space mentally and physically when we walk into those opposing gyms and everybody's waiting for us. What are the things you've been focused on?
Well, one thing is we're not sneaking up on anybody. Like you said, there's a target on our backs, and so we've been preaching since the off season. We got to be better. We can't come in as the same team we were last year. We have to be a better version of ourselves this year. And if we do that, we'll have to, change our mentality, and we're going to have to just go day by day if we want to validate this.
I think a good advantage for our program and our culture is the message is a little different, but it's also the same because we've always been process oriented. And so we never set the goal last year of winning the Sun Belt Championship. We've always had the message of if we do these certain things and take care of these certain aspects on and off the court, everything else will take care of itself. So like Coach Moynihan said, as we've tried to improve in certain areas going into this season, the message is still the same, that if we handle these issues in these areas and take care of the culture and within the locker room, on the court and off the court, then everything else will take care of itself and everything else will fall into place.
And it still comes down to the standards, the alignment. A lot of times it's chemistry. And so making sure we maintain some of the strengths of our group, that's a day-to-day process. And I don't think anybody gets lost in what Game 10 is going to look like. We're just trying to be good today. And Coach Kearns does a really good job of making sure that's our focus as well as that's our players' focus.
Dustin spent some time talking about depth development. And you guys have got greater production out of that bench because, you know, you can't run your starters for 35 minutes a night. It's just too much of a grind. Knowing the role that the three of you in particular play around individual player development, as you've gone through this off season, you know, maybe highlight, you know, some of the things you've seen that give you some optimism around some of those guys that maybe had, I would say, you know, more spot roles or, you know, bringing some energy roles into turning into more of those consistent 10, 12, 15-minute a night guys.
I think all of our guys have really improved, and I think it's just the hunger for wanting to get better every single day, whether it's on the court, film study, whatever it may be. You know, we can look at a couple of guys like C.J. Huntley. He's really bought into improving in the weight room, his diet, different things like that, and just being aggressive on both ends of the floor. A guy like Xavion Brown, who played a lot of minutes for us late in the season last year, has allowed that momentum to carry over to this offseason and has really helped his confidence on the floor to really having a very good preseason and gone out to a good start in practice. So I could keep going on, but those are a couple of examples of guys that's really taken a big jump. Not to mention Michael Eads. He's taken a big jump also of slimming down, working on his body, getting in better shape, and ready to take on a bigger role for us this year. And so I'll let these guys mention some guys also, but those are three guys that have really taken a step forward, of really putting in the work in the offseason and really improving and looking to make their role jump this year.
I think everybody's come into this season hungry. They've all wanted to get better. There hasn't been any sort of complacency, and Coach Kearns has done an excellent job of letting them understand that it's going to take more to do what we want to do. And that hunger, 1 through 12, every single one of them has got it. And so I think a lot of what we've seen, too, is improvement with just a better understanding of what it takes, what we have to do, the day-by-day process. And a guy like Michael Eads, who was here last year as a freshman, is just more comfortable in what we're doing. He knows the offense better. He knows the defense better. So everybody who's returning is just a little more in tune with our system, and so that right there is improvement right off the bat.
The only thing I'd add to that is, you know, I think anytime you have experience and you see plays, just like the job, you know, if you're in this role for 5 years, you're much more comfortable. Guys know what it takes. They understand what live game experience entails and what needs to happen. And so we were young last year at a lot of those bench spots, but they were able to get some minutes. And those key minutes allow them to see plays, have experience, and take that into the offseason and do what they need to do.
Asked Dustin when he was in here about just the after effects of an NCAA tournament berth and how it shows up. And, you know, expectations one, recruiting, it pops up. But just from y'all's vantage point, like, what have you seen maybe as like a product of that NCAA tournament berth for a program that, you know, hadn't seen a lot of those? And, you know, this was obviously something that you guys had a goal of when you showed up here with Dustin.
Me personally, I think the thing I've noticed the most is just, you know, more people just recognize the name App State that isn't associated with just football. So we've, you know, just walking around, whether it's the state of North Carolina, being back in Florida where I'm from, more people just recognize App State. They recognize the name. They recognize success we had last season. I ran into a lot of people that, you know, said they saw the game on TV, the championship game, just Georgia State. And so just the visibility and the recognition was the two main things that I noticed just from having that success last year.
It's pretty cool, too, that when you pick up the phone, you talk to a recruit, they're like, oh, yeah, y'all were in the NCAA tournament last year. So that's always pretty cool. But the App State community, I mean, just seeing the pride and just how excited they are for what we did last year and that momentum carrying into this year has been, I mean, that's been really cool to be a part of.
And Dustin mentioned, you know, kind of like something about championship, the confetti, like those moments, and, you know, like a need to almost be addicted to those moments for the players. And for y'all's role, like, how do you play into, I guess, making sure that becomes something that these players need and kind of demand to finish seasons that way?
Well, it's just the daily daily hunger for holding them to a high standard and making sure that there's no complacency that sets in. There's a high standard that's held within this locker room, held within this culture, within this program that starts with Coach Kearns, with the high standard that he holds with us and with the players every single day. And so we make sure to hold our players to a high standard, let them know that, it is hard to get to that moment, much less win in that moment. And so we let them know that you can't take that moment for granted and not to forget all the hard work that goes into even getting there, much less winning. And so that's just a daily reminder that we tell our guys to, we're going to hold you to a high standard, and we're going to keep pushing and let you know that it takes a lot of hard work and dedication to get there.
I'm Natalie Lonaball with App TV, and I just have one question for y'all today, and that is, what practices that were brought about to comply with the social distancing that was happening during the pandemic stuck for this upcoming season? And if there weren't any, what was the lasting impact of that period, and what has that looked like for the team?
I can't remember any.
I think we're operating pretty, on a normal basis. I mean,
Yeah.
I think everybody's a little more aware of washing their hands now and being a little spread out when you can, and we wear masks indoors, just not during practice right now, but our team is fully vaccinated. So if there's anything else,
I think we're just more cognizant of just making sure that keeping areas clean within the locker room, on the floor, within the seating area in the team lounge. Like Coach Moynihan said, the mask, keeping hand sanitizer, different things like that. There's not any specific practice I can think of from practice that we carried over to this year, because we're operating in a pretty normal setting like we did our first year here. But those are just some of the hygienic things that we're kind of paying attention to this year.
I would just add to it, it's ever changing. There's a lot of people out there that are way smarter than us that kind of tell us what to do, and we just keep, being flexible and doing what we can to satisfy those requirements and the directives put forth by the conference or the NCAA or whatever we need to do to make sure our players are safe and be able to compete.
Thank you.
Coaches, obviously, y'all got some big non-conference games, especially in December, heading down to Tobacco Road. Do you guys envision yourselves having to tell the players, keep it one game at a time, one day at a time, or do you think will do a pretty good job of just managing the season?
I think it's always a message to tell them to take it one game at a time. Whenever you make the mistake of looking ahead to a certain opponent and don't take the opponent that's right in front of you and taking it for granted, that's a mistake that can get you in trouble and can turn into a loss. And so we're always preaching one day at a time, one game at a time, and just trying to get better in that certain day and not looking ahead to those games that we have coming up in December or any games like that. So, that's a long way away. We got a lot of tough games coming up before then, and so we're just focused on Iona right now and games that will be coming up to that point.
Any other questions? All right, sounds good. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
That's cool.
Justin Forrest. We'll go straight into questions.
Mike, Justin, has there been anything over the offseason that you all have like specifically worked on for this upcoming year, or has it kind of just been all around like trying to improve every aspect of your game?
For me, it's been all around, but mostly just ball screen reads, just getting better in the ball screen, and just working on my in-between game, mostly my floaters and my mid-range, just getting to that. I feel like just being more efficient just in the offense and just being more comfortable this year. That's like the feedback I got from like the scouts and stuff, so that's what I really worked on this summer.
I kind of say the same thing, but, just mainly focusing on what we got to focus on as a team, staying together, staying connected in all of those areas like that.
How excited are y'all for the first home game since there haven't been fans in like a year?
I say we're definitely excited. We can't wait to, play in front of all of our supporters. Everybody has been with us for as long as they have, and even the newcomers, we're just happy to be playing in front of our fans.
Yeah, same thing. I mean, he's played in front of fans. I haven't played yet, really. So I'm just excited to see, the outcome and see how many people just show up and support us this year.
For both of you guys, coming off of an NCAA tournament, what are the after effects of that? Whether that's expectation, whether it's more people recognizing you guys around town, what have you seen as the effect of that tournament berth?
We've definitely seen our wave of people coming in, speaking to us or whatnot. But it's definitely been an experience that we've all valued from and that we all enjoyed. And it's just something that we want to keep going and keep pushing forward. We all work hard. Our coaches work hard to put us in great positions and to help us be able to even get all of this notoriety. So, we just thank them for everything that they've done and our fans for supporting us even more now.
I mean, Justin nailed it. I don't really have to say much about it. We just enjoy the experience and know that we just got to work and just stay true to what we've been doing and just keep getting better.
How much of that experience played into y'all's decision to have to come back? Or if it didn't play as much, what played into the decision to come back for you guys?
For me personally, that played a lot in my decision to come back, but just the feedback I got from scouts and agents, another year would just be better for me to get more experience, especially at the Division I level. I mean, prior to this, I barely played at Stony Brook, and I only had 1 year Division II, so just to boost my resume and really just to come back and play in front of fans and just get another experience, and another opportunity to win a championship and, advance in the tournament.
Yeah, I'll definitely say it played it played a good deal in the role of me coming back, as well as the coaches in this team. I would say that was the main key to me even thinking about coming back, because it's I just love it up here. It's a great family environment, and, I just wanted to be able to play on this team again and just be around them for another year.
On the subject of you guys coming back, under any normal circumstance, and it's hard to take much good away from COVID and everything that happened last year, but a lot of athletes, I've talked to guys on the football team who said, hey, under any other normal circumstance, I'd be gone now. Does being able to come back and have another year to play with this team, represent this university, just to play ball, how much do you guys value being back? Is that something that really maybe is a little bit of extra fuel for you this year?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just being back with the same guys. We got a couple more newcomers, but just being back with the same team that we had last year, just to build on that and represent this university now in front of fans, that's very important. I mean, you get another chance at playing, collegiate basketball. Why not take it? I spoke to a lot of my friends that play like overseas or in the pros right now, and they said they wish they could come back. So, you get an opportunity like that. I mean, why would you waste it?
Oh, yeah, I agree. I mean, I think all in all it was a good thing, because, you get another year, like you said, at college basketball at a high level here. And, just being around the people that we're around every day and just getting better with them every day is fun. And it's something that it goes by faster than you think. Like my 4 years here went by faster than I can remember, and being blessed to have another one here is just something that I couldn't help but take.
Both of you being, 6-year guys, you come back and you've got a leadership role on this team. You've got some help, certainly Adrian, very experienced, Donovan, James Lewis, those are guys that can shoulder some of that. But you guys certainly play that role, and you've got a lot of younger guys that were in the rotation last year, but their roles were kind of minor in comparison. That can't be the case this year. You've got to have those guys in that 12, 15, 18-minute and, producing to take some pressure off. Not every night can be a great night, even for the starters. What have you done to really try to help those younger guys kind of take that next step in their development?
I would say it's just our culture here. I mean, I think everybody worked really hard this summer. Everyone got better. Our younger guys got way better. Being a year in the system really helps. I mean, and then every day in practice we just compete and just try to help them out as much as we can. And as we see, is their jump has been tremendous this year. So,
I mean, our leadership roles are. I mean, I wouldn't even call them leadership roles per se, because I think we have a team that's so good that everybody took it upon themselves to say, hey, I got to get better at this, or we need to get better at that. And when we put it all together collectively as a team, it's just great to see and watch. But, I mean, like Mike said, we compete in practice every day. We go hard, and those guys, they want to get better. And I think that's what really pushes us as a team to help us move forward.
You win the Sun Belt Championship, and I think it's easy sometimes to get caught in that realm of, hey, they were number one. They're already doing things at a high level, which is certainly true in a lot of regards. But I'm sure there are things about the way you played last year, maybe some aspects offensively or defensively, that you all look at each other kind of collectively and say, we can get better here. We need to be better here. What are maybe one or two of those areas that you want to make sure that you sharpen up this year, and that just makes you a tougher out at the end of the day?
To be honest, it's everything. I think, we weren't perfect last year, obviously, but we have a lot of stuff that we need to work on. Our defense needs to be better. We have to be more consistent on offense, and it's just, that's what our main focus was, just getting better at everything this summer.
Yeah, I'll say consistency is a good word that Mike used. It's not just for an offense or a defense. It's just being a consistent team. Whatever we show it night in, night out. And, so we don't have people think that, oh, maybe they just got lucky this night or that night. We just really want to be consistent as a team and play as hard as we can every night.
This is for you, Justin. I've noticed, I think it was a little while back, just like sharing a lot of stuff about your brother and the fact that he's going to be probably making a college basketball decision at some point. What's it been like for you to be big brother to a guy that's kind of going through a process you went through a few years ago and kind of helping him through that at the same time?
I mean, it's fun just seeing him grow, and not even just on the court, it's off the court as well. And, I mean, it's a situation that's really it makes me happy. I mean, I really think, honestly, he has a chance to be a lot better than what I was. But, I mean, it's just a fun process to watch him experience what I did, and even more at a higher rate than what I did. But, I mean, it's definitely just a proud moment, and I love every second of it.
Okay, last year, you guys won the NCAA, gone to the NCAA championship. And what was it like knowing that App State is getting more recognition across the country, and that we're not just a football school and can also be a basketball school as well?
I think it was it wasn't something that our minds were focused on, but I think we definitely did put a lot of people on notice. And I mean, we got a really good team and really good coaches that like I said, they put us in great positions to showcase our talents and show how great that we really are as a team. And I think last year was a big step for our program, though.
Thank you.
Xavion Brown and RJ Duahart. We will open the floor for questions.
James, going back to last season, you really took on more of an accelerated role as an offensive player, as a point producer down low. Talk a little bit about that development during the season. Clearly, it was something the coaches felt you were capable of, and they wanted it to be more integral to the offense. But then, kind of as you've gone through the off season, what are the things that you've kind of added on or worked on maybe to broaden that part of your offensive game?
The biggest thing was being aggressive and having confidence in myself, and then also my teammates helped by getting me the ball. That's the biggest two things. And this offseason, just working on the same things, finishing, just working on my touch and stuff like that.
One of the things I was really impressed with you last year was free throw shooting. You were really consistent throughout the year, and I think the cliche is go foul the big guy at the end of a close game, and where you were involved with that didn't always work out really well for him. Talk a little bit about the development, the discipline it took for you to build that part of your game up to be as reliable as it was.
Yeah, the biggest thing was repetition. Just shooting a lot of free throws, and then also a big part of that is like after practice we do this thing called mass free throw shooting, and it's pressured, and you got to make a free throw, so it's kind of like the game.
Xavion, last season, your role, especially late in the season, you came off and brought a lot of energy off the bench. You were a really good defensive stopper. I think you really drove some guys crazy in the conference towards the end of the season, just not letting them breathe on the offensive end of the floor. I'm sure this year, part of the offseason has been developing more around your game and really being more of a complete player, both ends of the floor, and really kind of developing yourself. What are the things you've been focused on? What are the areas that you feel like you've made the greatest gains in?
Honestly, as you said, me being a defensive mindset type of a guard and doing all that stuff, I'd say definitely playmaking, and honestly coming off of more ball screens and getting to mid-range game for a floater or being able to facilitate within that area of a mindset. So I'd say definitely between my coaching staff and my teammates helping me with that, progressing in that aspect of the game, I definitely say just becoming a more primary ball handler and be able to facilitate and get to the paint is what I'm working on right now.
One of the things you didn't waste any time on, even though you were a freshman, was just going to the rim. You were pretty fearless in attacking the basket. Was that something that just kind of came with you, that was just a part of your game, or maybe just felt easier or more natural to you?
Yeah, definitely. Our main goals and objectives of us as individuals is to come and play into our strengths, and my strength was getting to the basket because my athleticism helps me with that a lot. So just being able to have the confidence of my teammates to let me be able to do that and attack at will definitely helped me just become more fearless when I got in there with bigger guys or just smaller guys for that matter.
RJ, towards the end of last season, James was kind of fighting an ankle injury late in the year, and you took on a really prominent role, especially through the Sun Belt tournament run. You guys are different kinds of players. You can both go down low, but, James tends to be very strong on the block. You tend to work maybe a little more away, kind of coming to the rim, when the ball's moving down the lane. Kind of the same question that I asked Xavion, as you've gone through this off season, what have you been working on to kind of broaden your game on both ends of the floor, and what, kind of how do you see your role developing this year?
Last year with the role that I played in the tournament, I felt like I really took a step up with just being physical and being a pest around the rim and just trying to get rebounds more. I feel like I kind of took those steps later in the season, and I'm looking to take those earlier on in the season to be more of a help earlier in the season when we need it, so we don't fall as low as we did last year in the seeding in the Sun Belt. So I feel like that was one of them, and just being more of a presence on offense too. I feel like last year I was more defensive minded. Well, this year I feel like I should just keep that same mindset on defense, but taking another step up on offense as well.
I know that, one area of your game that I heard the coaches talk about when you first got here was, being able to provide a little bit of a perimeter threat, from the outside and maybe draw on some defense with you out there. Is that an area of your game you feel like we'll see a little more of this season?
Definitely. Last year, I felt like I could have shot the ball more, and it probably was a confidence thing, but as I went on in the season and we got deeper and deeper and I played more minutes and became more of a factor, I feel like my confidence level increased, so I feel like shooting, I definitely will do more of this year.
Other questions?
Hi, I'm Allie Powell with App TV, and I just want to know what are some strengths that y'all think are going to be going into the season from y'all as players individually and for the team as a whole?
I'll say as a team, we're an older group of guys, so we have a lot of chemistry. We know each other well, and we like to compete. We know we're going to have difficulties during the season, but we're going to push through mentally and physically.
I just definitely say tenacity for defensively. We're pretty good there and solid defensive team, and we're always one family. So no matter, like James said, no matter what we go through, we do it as a team, and we're confident in each other.
I'll say the same thing that they just said. We hang our hats on defense, so that's one of our strong suits, and I definitely think that we're family. So we all encourage each other just to be better. And one thing that Coach always talks about is like a next play mentality, and that's just whatever happens last play, we forget about it and we just worry about what's going on next, like the next game, the next day, the next play. So I feel like that's one thing that helps us as a team as well.
Is there anything specifically that y'all worked on during the off season in your games?
Literally everything. We're trying to be better offensively, defensively, rebounding. Every aspect of the game we worked on.
Yeah, I'd say it was all pretty equal. Can't say one specific spot.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. It wasn't anything specifically.
James, how does it feel to come back to App State for another year?
Feel great. Being able to come back with these guys and with the same goal, we're trying to make it to the championship and make it to the NCAA tournament. So it feels great.
All the coaches spoke to trying to stay consistent throughout the season. Last year, y'all had some ups and downs. What are some of the things y'all think you need to avoid to make sure this season goes as consistent as possible?
Biggest thing is staying locked in, trusting in ourselves, trusting in our defense, trusting in our offense. We put in the work, so we just got to produce.
Any other questions? Okay, guys. Thank you.
Question for each of you guys. What's been kind of the priority for you this offseason? What are the, I'm sure you've worked on your entire game, but, there have been a couple of specific areas that you've really tried to drill down on?
Like you said, working on our game, really just being better at everything, defense, offense, anything that we could have worked on or slipped up on last year that we could be better in this year.
Yeah, I would say the same thing as Delph. Really just like trying to become better than we were last year. So just growing with each other, whether that's on or off the court. I feel like our off the court chemistry helps us out a lot, and just how close we are off the court with each other, as well as things on the court. So that's just something we've been trying to focus on, is just improving from last year and just getting closer with each other, understanding each other's game, stuff like that.
Donovan, you really played a critical role kind of in the middle of the offense, right there working that free throw line area down. Every now and then you'd sneak out there and you might pop that top of the key jumper. Is that something maybe you've worked on a little bit that we might see a little more of, is some perimeter game from you?
Yes, sir. I've been working on that pretty much all summer, so it's been something I've been working on, something I know I needed to get better at.
Delph give you any shooting tips over there, or is he just keeping those to himself?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess everybody, they have different forms and stuff, but I ain't really got no tips.
All right. Well, I just wanted to know if you were, doing a little coaching on the side there. You guys come back in with expectations, different this year. Every time you go into an opposing gym, especially in this conference, you're going to have the target on you. What's the significance of that? Because both of you have played at the high school level, at a championship level. You know what that takes to win. Obviously, stakes are different when you're playing college ball. What does it take to be effective as a reigning champion when you come in and you're not going to surprise anybody?
Last year is last year. This is a new year. We're going to get everybody's best game, and we got to know that coming off a Sun Belt championship. So I think we just need to lock in a little bit more than ever, really, because it's going to be harder to win. And just learning how to stay together through adversity is going to help us out a lot this year.
Any younger players, it's going to be important for those guys to be contributing more minutes, more point production, kind of all-around stuff that you need from them. Any of the younger guys that have kind of jumped off the page at you as you've gone through the offseason and kind of seen them develop from last year?
I think really everybody improved, in some way. Especially, I think Xavion, he's improved a lot over the offseason. Just, being more consistent with the ball, handling the ball and playing better defense. So,
what's the, what's kind of the feel of this team? There are a lot of you back, but you guys said it yourselves. It's a new year. It's a different group. All of you are different individually. Do you feel like there's a certain persona or kind of personality that the team is taking on right now that might develop into something maybe a little bit different than we saw last year?
Really, I would just probably say one word that's going to describe us is we're going to be tough. We're going to go out, fight every game, play to the last second, and that's just going to be our MO for the season.
All the coaches talked about y'all taking on a bigger leadership role. Do you think y'all two can describe what he meant by that?
Come off for last year, people probably had their doubts, and I guess really wants us to stay connected and, keep that same mentality we had last year going into the tournament and, trying to make a step ahead, not trying to do what we did last year, but be better than what we were.
Yeah, and I would just say we have a lot of returners, so just as a team, we can just help each other out. We know what we're doing, and I guess we just need to stay together, motivate each other, encourage each other, just so we can all be on the same page.
So
So you guys are entering a new era in App State basketball after getting into the championship, into the Sun Belt, after winning the Sun Belt championship and going to NCAA tournament. What does it feel like being part of the new era, I guess you could say, with App State no longer being known as a football school and now becoming more recognized worldwide or statewide?
I mean, we put in the work for it. Our coaches pushed us to get to this point, and I mean, you got to embrace it, but you can only take it so far. We still got more work to do, and we're just trying to get better each and every day.